Matt and Natalie are here to go over advanced participant management. Some of this is, as the title would suggest, a little more advanced. So if you're brand new to the system and totally lost, you may just want to keep an eye, watch and see what's going on. And we'll send you some follow-up stuff later so that you can start from the beginning. Like Eric is here to help with questions as well. And I am going to put in a couple of links in the chat in just a second. You guys can take it off.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I am a technical account manager with RunSignup, and Matt is here as well. I'll let him introduce himself, but the purpose of this presentation is to cover advanced participant management. So this is to cover strategies for managing complicated participant management issues. So as you all know, COVID happened. Still happening, but in March of 2020, we saw a mass wave of cancellations all the way through the end of the year. Some races are still canceling for 2021, but what we found was everyone was handling the postponement and the cancellations differently. So they were offering different things, different ways to do deferrals, different ways to do refunds, event transfers, race transfers. So we built a plethora of things in March, April, and May of last year to help races move forward with those decisions. And now in 2021, there's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen based on the decisions that were made and the options that were offered. So we're going to go through all of the tools and show you how to use them and how we can help.
Yeah, so I'll take it off with the postpone and cancel options. A lot of people are probably familiar with that pop-up that you were allowed to add to your race to let participants know whether they intended to defer, switch to virtual, get a refund, or any type of options. It was very customizable. We did have 4 canned presets, but you can customize them to whatever type of offer that you're doing. So we want to review what those decisions were to make sure that participants got shuffled to the right place, and that you can start over for 2021 based off of handling those participant decisions. So that way there's no ill will that a participant thinks that you forgot about them, and that way you can handle getting them into the next year's event, or that make sure that you gave them the refund. So to get back into the participant decision report, you navigate to your race tab under the postpone and cancel options, and then the participant decision report. This report has a change year menu option. So if you've already renewed for 2021 and you need to look at last year's information, just change that change year toggle to 2020, and that'll show you the current participants that are in the race. And that's important because if you had refunded somebody or they deferred, they're not going to be in this report. This is just people that have remained as an active registration status. So that's the purpose of monitoring it as it's going on and then consolidating it to who's kind of remaining. So you can search in the download options of the participant report to actually see any registration status, to see what their actual decision was. But this decision report just gives you that baseline, and you can download it from here, or you can flip over to the participant report to see it. Now, the participant decision is a hidden field, so you do need to expose that. So if we look at our participant report, again, we're in the participants tab under view participants. You would change the report options dropdown and choose the hidden fields option. So over the years, we've added lots of different options. So if you aren't familiar with this, I definitely recommend looking at which ones that you want to do. There's loyalty in here, there's club membership discount information, but the very bottom one is the race postponement cancel decision report. So if you toggle this option on and then do a search criteria on your last year's event and change the registration status from active to any registration status, that'll get you the full list to see whatever information that you need to take decisions from there. This report gives you the registration ID, so then you can take bulk actions that we'll get into, whether that's bulk refunds, bulk deferrals, and things like that. But this is kind of the starting point of like what happened in 2020, what is the current landscape of my participants, and how to kind of take action from there. So with that, I'll kick it back over to Natalie for some bulk actions.
Okay, so what's coming up for me quite often now is a lot of people, they turned on the postpone cancellation tool that Matt just reviewed, and they aren't realizing that that's really just a data gathering tool. So you turn on the options, you let people choose what they wanted to do, what option they wanted. But if you didn't turn on participant management and you were just gathering data, you have to take actions on those selections. So one of the options is give me a refund. So we actually built a bulk refund tool. We've had this one for about 4 years, but you can download a list of registration IDs, paste the registration IDs in, and issue bulk refunds. You can choose if you want to include the processing fee with that refund, if you want to remove them from the race. You can also just set a flat refund amount, or you can copy and paste in specific refund amounts for every single registration ID. So the bulk refund tool has a lot of flexibility. Bulk deletions, that is pasting in a list of registration IDs and just removing those people from the race. That's going to take them out of the active registration report, mark them as deleted and removed. Bulk race and event transfers. So you can, same thing, paste in registration IDs, and you can transfer people to another one of your races or another event within the same race. Bulk deferrals, that is going to remove the list of registration IDs and give them a deferred status within that same race. This is really important, especially if you're going to utilize the defer via race transfer tool that Matt will be covering later. And then bulk deferral fee refunds. So one of the things that came up is races traditionally we're giving people the option to defer their registration for a $20 or a $25 fee. Then the race was canceled or postponed. They had a lot of people that had already deferred and paid that deferral fee. Now they're offering that option for free. So it wasn't really fair to the people that had paid $20 or $25. And now they need to refund those deferral fees that were paid. So this is an example of bulk refunds. So as you can see, you paste the registration IDs into that box, choose if you want to include processing fees, and then choose if you want to leave or keep them in the race. But that max refund amount box, you don't need to put anything in that box unless you're trying to do a bulk refund of a flat amount. So you have 100 people, you want to refund all of them $10. That's the only time you would put an amount into that max refund amount box. And then that registration status box, we actually added that in April of this year. I love that feature. That will actually allow you to issue a refund on someone that has already been deferred or transferred. So. Oh, can you go back?
Sure.
Once you paste in registration IDs, you can click that review refund amount button. That doesn't actually process the refund. It takes you to the next screen and it tells you how much you need to issue all of those refunds. So that's actually, I get this question a lot. How much do I need to issue these 100 people a refund? And the best way to find that information is paste it all in, choose the settings like you're going to issue a refund, and then click review, and it will tell you the amount that you need to have or add to your reserve. So bulk race and event transfers. One of the most important things about bulk race and event transfers is that you'll want to complete these in batches based on the event that people are transferring into. So if you have 100 people that said they want to transfer to the 5K, you'd want to complete all of those in one batch. So you're going to want to batch them out, and then this feature allows up to 250 bulk transfers at a time. So if you have 1,500 people that need to be bulk transferred, you would have to do that in quite a few batches. And then bulk deferrals. This one's quick and easy. Paste in the registration IDs, click review deferred registrations. That's going to summarize it for you on the next page. And on the next page is where you would actually be able to complete the deferrals. And then bulk deferral fee refunds. This one's a little bit tricky because it's not pasting in a registration ID, it's pasting in the transaction number for any deferral fees that have already been paid. So you would start by going to your deferred registrations report, and there you can download it. And that's where you would be able to see the transaction ID that's in the column all the way on the right. You want to paste in those transaction IDs to issue the deferral fee refunds.
Perfect. Yeah. So speaking of deferrals, the major question that everybody has is how do you handle those deferrals from last year? How do you get them into the 2020 race, or 2020 to into 2021? So we're going to do a deep dive on the defer via race transfer feature, which is our recommended way to handle this. So the defer via race transfer is exactly what it is. It's using the existing kind of participant management functionality to allow self-serve claiming of the deferral. In years past, races had a variety of options with how they would handle deferrals, whether they had to bulk out coupons, bulk out reserved entries, or any type of method. And that was a very complicated process for mail merging and all kinds of other stuff. This allows the self-serve, and we have a lot of different options for flexibility to allow the credit that the race wants to allow the participant to maintain into a future year. It doesn't necessarily need to be 2021. Some races are even flexible to allow to carry that deferral a couple years down the road, depending on if you're a destination race or just any local 5K. So this is all underneath the participants tab under participant management and deferrals. The main screen when you get to here is the actual deferral tool, whether you want to allow people to defer or not. This is a sub feature of that through the gray button that you see on the screenshot that you need to drill into to customize what options people have based off of the year that they've deferred. So if you went through that bulk deferral tool and bulk deferred everybody from 2020, then you would navigate to your 2020 race and drill into that. So in this screenshot, that would be that middle orange button that we would want to customize what options our 2020 deferred participants have. So when we get into those options, there's 3 credit methods that we have. The first one is to use the exact amount that they paid for the deferred credit. That's probably a pretty common one. The second option would be to make the new event always free, no matter what. So this can be, extending goodwill to a registrant. Doesn't matter. We just want to see you in 2021. Now that would allow somebody that did a 5K at a lower price to transfer up to, a half marathon or something. I'm not sure how many participants jump up in distance that much, but it is something that would be potentially possible. And then regardless of what they actually paid, because maybe last year they got in with a coupon or a special discount because they were on a team, we do have an ability to set a fixed creditable amount per event distance. So if I was deferred from the 5K in this example, I get $15 to transfer into next year's race, which then allows me to, pay the difference if I felt like my training was going well and I want to upgrade or what have you. So there's 3 different options. Probably I'm seeing a lot of people use the set creditable amount just because it's really easy and you don't have to worry about, how they got in last year, whether they deferred from 2019 into 2020, so they have a $0 credit. This is kind of allowing them the most flexibility by doing that one. But I have seen people use the other options as well. So each case is just something to think about for your particular needs. So when you're getting into the credit options, once you've chosen which method you want to go, there's 2 other options on here depending on how you want to set up the add-on credit and the event cost credit. And with these two options, obviously there's 4 permutations that you can get from it, whether you want to allow the add-on to be credited into 2021 or just the event. And again, looking at the needs of your race, if you have add-ons, it's something to consider. So we'll go through these in kind of like high level detail, but we do have a written blog explanation and a crash course video guide to like slow this down, or you can replay this webinar at any time. So the first option would be if we just check the box to only allow the add-on or allow the add-on to be credited. So by default, the event cost is already there, but it's going to add the credits for any add-ons that were paid. If the person didn't have any add-ons, then like that really wouldn't matter, but this allows that person to carry that credit forward. So some races may have fulfilled the add-ons and kind of mailed that out with a virtual option, or some people didn't fulfill it and kind of let them carry that credit forward. So this would be one option in that case if you didn't already fulfill add-ons. And you can see the checkout cart here at the end. Last year's event cost, I paid $25 and I paid $20 for my add-on. So the transfer credit is giving me that full $20 add-on credit plus the $25 event. And basically I have a free registration because I've chosen the same type of add-on and the same event. The next option would be to allow the add-on and also check the box that only the event cost can receive the credit. So this gives the potential of a global credit that can allow somebody to upgrade to an event. But if they don't use the entire creditable amount balance, again, after this transaction is over, that credit that you've extended to that transfer is lost. And then they would be charged for any add-ons that they add in addition to the new registration. So that's a little kind of tough to understand, but in this particular example, we're doing a registration into the 15K this year, where we only had paid $45 because we did the $25 5K and we did a $20 add-on. So you see that we're adding our item back on, which is $20. And because we've allowed the add-on to be credited and we only want to give the event cost the credit, it's giving us a $45 discount, which is subtracting from the $50 race fee and giving us a net balance of 25, plus the processing fee. So that's one high level example there. The next option is if you only allow the event cost to receive the credit, then just like you check the box, it only applies to the add-ons, or only applies to the events, and you're always charged for add-ons. So for this example, last year I paid $25 plus 20 for the add-on, but with this setting, I'm not getting that credit for the add-on that I bought last year, and I'm only getting that $25 event fee that I paid last year. So you see on the right-hand side in the little checkout receipt, it's $25 for the race. I'm doing a $20 add-on, the same level of add-on that I got last year, but because I'm not extending that credit to them, I'm only giving them the $25 for the event fee, and I'm paying new. And then the last option is if you actually don't check either option, and what could happen is, again, this only is going to credit the registration amount. Again, you can downgrade the event to use any additional credit that's there. Otherwise, they're going to be charged for the add-ons, and just like any credit for any transfer, if there's left over, we don't automatically refund the difference or anything like that. It's just lost. So in this example, again, we have that $25 registration fee that we had paid last year, but we're not extending that event cost credit. That allows me to downgrade to the 5K at $15 and basically do the add-on, and I'm still getting $25 worth. So the difference is $10 that I would pay. So these are just kind of a couple scenarios based off your specific event. If you're adding add-ons, then that's something to think about. If you don't have add-ons, then this is pretty easy to select, but just something to think about when you're setting up the credit option in the Defer via Race Transfer tool. So with that, I'm sure we have some questions on that, but we can come back to that later. I'm going to kick it over to one of Natalie's favorite features is loyalty lists and reserved entries.
My favorite feature of the year, Eric's favorite feature too. I don't know, it's tied with the Defer via Race Transfer tool, but so I'm sure a lot of you have already used reserved entries maybe not as many of you have used loyalty lists, but now we have this really great way to combine the two features. So loyalty lists, just a background on that and how it works, how it was built. We actually built it for Boilermaker. They had priority registration open for, I think, a week, and they only wanted to allow people on a specific list to register before registration opened to the general public. So that's the traditional way that loyalty lists have been used in the past and how they were designed. So with loyalty lists, you upload a list of people, first name, last name, date of birth, email. You can set a specific date range and say, only allow people on this list to register. That setting also has a buddy feature. So you can say, allow everyone on this list plus one friend to register. So it's actually a really cool feature for exclusivity, priority registration, kind of hyping up the opening. The change that we made is now you can use loyalty lists and tie it to a reserved entry. So with, before we continue, the change that we made to loyalty lists, you don't have to set a specific date range. So it's a neat workaround to give special pricing to people on a specific list, even if registration is open to the general public. So we're going to continue. The way that you would combine these two features is to create, or we're just we're reviewing reserved entries in general and not how the two work together. Okay.
We can see that. We'll swap them. We'll swap them.
We can go back and I'll just cover reserved entries. So you can create a multi-use reserved entry that has specific start dates and end dates, specific caps, and specific pricing. So you can create a list, say this, or a link, this link can be used by 150 people. Anyone who registers through this link will get $10 pricing for the 10K and free pricing for the 5K. So you can get pretty nitty gritty with the reserved entry settings. So the change that we added to combine the two features is you can now apply that loyalty list to that multi-use reserved entry. So now only people on that loyalty list will be able to register through that multi-use reserved entry link and receive the special pricing. So it has to be a multiple use reserved entry. You don't have to use the loyalty registration settings. So you don't have to set that start date and the end date. And then just some examples. If you want to offer 2020 participants a special link to register and receive $20 off. So instead of, like, if you were to create a coupon code, $20 off, that code could go viral. I might share it with my friends and family. This is a unique way to say only people who are registered for last year's event can use this link to get this $20 discount. And then with reserved entries, one of the settings is to allow people to register outside of the normal registration dates. So let's say the race is sold out, it's closed, but now you have a sponsor and you need to let 50 people get in, or 50 VIPs or your elites. You could use that multiple use reserved entry link and the loyalty list to make sure that only your 50 special people can register through that link.
Nice. So I just wanted to talk about some refund features because there's lots of refunds that have been offered just to cover reserves, the different policies, and things of that nature. So your refund reserve must be funded to do this. And this is because RunSignup, we're a payment facilitator, so we don't take possession of your money. And so you have to give us instructions to set money aside, and then you're basically doing the refunds from that kind of bucket, essentially. So all of this features are going to be under the participant management option. And then we have the chargeback tab with refund reserves. You can set up refunds and refund policy. And then there's also, the bulk refunds that we've kind of covered. So in that refund reserve, the first top menu item here, that's where you can set money aside from future registrations. And so we're automatically holding 5% back to kind of handle most of this for you. So you might not necessarily realize that there's already money kind of in that bucket for you to issue refunds. But if you have to issue a lot, then maybe you need to add funds directly to it. And if registration is not open for you to have future funds come in, then you can manually add funds to the reserve via credit card. We also can accept a check or an ACH deposit. And so all of that information is going to be on the chargeback/refund reserve page. If there's any owed funds that we have, like you have a payment coming up on Tuesday, you can take money from that as long as that money has settled and move it directly into the reserve. So say we have a payment coming to you for $2,000, you can say, hey, move 500 of that directly into the refund reserve to kind of handle that. Also on the refund reserve page is an option. If you have multiple races and you have holdbacks in different races, we do allow you to move funds between one reserve and another. And that shows up as an adjustment on your financial statement there. Again, you can bulk refund people or manually refund one at a time. Much easier to do it in bulk, but we do have the ability to do one at a time. Now what we're seeing as people are coming into 2021 and they had early bird registration from 2019 Black Friday deals or something like that, they're running into registrations that they want to refund that are over a year old. And so you won't be able to physically do that as a race director because the token to access that credit card is no longer there. So you need to send an email to RunSignup or your account manager and just link the registration IDs that you need to refund, and let us know if you're also including the processing fee or not. And so we would have to handle those for you, and you'll get an error when you try to do that. So maybe if you've gone to do the bulk refund, you might get an error message that some of those refunds are over 1 year. Just take those out in a batch, send them to us, and then you can do the bulk refund for the rest of them. And then also something that was kind of new during the pandemic is there used to be a $1 charge because every time we access the card, RunSignup's being charged for that. So we just decided, we just want to eat the fee. We need to make sure the participant gets happy. So there's no refund fee anymore when you're doing bulk refunds or one at a time. And so again, because this is a new year, it's always a good time to review your refund policy. And when you're reviewing your refund policy, also kind of check out your waiver. It's always a good time to review both. We're not lawyers, so we can't necessarily give you advice on what that policy should be. But that is something that you can set up here. And there's a couple different options that you can have it show up on the checkout page. We automatically have a tab on your race website that shows up. And then you can also have somebody agree to it at checkout that they agreed to the refund policy. So that's kind of basics of handling refunds. And then we'll kind of kick it over for a little bit of review on some of the self-serve management options that we have.
Okay. We have a lot of participant management options. So RunSignup is designed to be self-serve to make things easier for races so that you can control what you want to allow your participants to be able to do. And then that way they can make all the changes through their profile to take work off of your plate. So we have very flexible options. Pretty much anything that a participant can edit, you can control the settings on a case-by-case basis. So everything that you see in the list there is what you can enable and set up and allow your participants to edit. So what we highly recommend is we have tutorials. If you go to runsignup.com under learning, there is the support tab. We have tutorials on every single one of these participant management features. So we highly recommend creating a custom section in your race call it FAQs. You can make that its own menu tab, and then you can link those tutorials. You can also, when you're setting up and customizing your confirmation email, you can choose which of the custom sections you want to show in the confirmation email. So we also recommend including that in the confirmation email. That really will take quite a bit of work off of your plate for the participants that actually read. So we highly recommend that. But some of the things you can customize and turn on is participant info. I actually recommend that all races, if you turn this on, you can customize which fields of the participant info you want people to be able to edit. So you might want to allow them to change their email address or their address, but you can turn off first name and last name so that they can't just go into their registration record and I missed the event transfer deadline, or I don't want to pay a transfer fee, so I'm just going to change Natallie Young to Matt Sinclair. So you can customize those settings and prevent people from doing that. Refunds and refund policy, event transfers, you can get really nitty gritty with those settings. Race to race transfers, bib exchanges, deferrals, giveaway management, add-on management, question management, team management, corrals, fundraisers, shipping address management. And then I skipped over file upload management. I don't actually know of any races that use that, but you actually can allow people to upload a file during the registration process if you needed to collect some special form. So
yeah, lots of different stuff here. There are webinars that kind of dive a little bit deeper on each of these individual tasks, but all of these are able to be turned on. But as a race director, you can physically, override anything. So maybe you don't want to allow, somebody to do an event transfer after a specific date, so they can't self-serve that feature. But you can, hey, they played the world's smallest violin to you, and you want to go ahead and do it on the back end. You can do any changes that you want on the back end, but we're not going to automatically charge their card if you do an upgrade or, give them an extra add-on item. They would need to self-serve to do that, or you can also just invoice them if there is a difference with whatever you're taking. But it's always good to review these policies, make sure your cutoff dates are all aligned with what you need, and then you can kind of take it from there with creating that FAQ page. So we know we had a lot of advanced stuff going on, so we wanted to get at least into some questions here. What do we got, Eric?
So one of the better questions actually is around the 365-day limit to refunds. So a handful of organizations obviously had a fair amount of people that signed up for 2020 races prior to February, let's say, of 2020. And they have now deferred into potentially the 2021 race, and they're not sure if they're going to want to refund after that 1 year period of time. So what would you recommend on how to manage those individuals that have deferred into the 21 race and may ask for refunds?
Yeah, so if they do need a refund and you can't do that, obviously we would need to take care of that for you. So you can drill in on the participant report. If you click on manage, that takes you to where you would issue a single refund. And when you go to issue that refund like you normally would, then all of a sudden you get the error message, you can't because it's 1 year. Just take that URL in the top of your address bar, copy it, and shoot an email to either info@RunSignup or your account manager. And we can work with our finance team to get that refunded. Or if you know that you have a lot of these that you want to do, then definitely bulk them up. You can download a list based off of their original registration ID in the 2020 registration, sort it, and then that gives us the registration ID, and then just shoot us over the file and let us know, hey, here's a list of registration IDs we need to refund, but they registered over a year old. And then we do want to also refund the processing fee, or we do not want to issue the refund for the processing fee. And so we can take it care for that. The
So to
batches
sum
would
that
be
up
preferred.
really quickly and easily,
Yeah, sorry.
race directors cannot issue refunds if the transaction is more than a year old. RunSignup admins can. So if you have a situation where you need refunds processed, just work with your account manager or info, and we can help you push those through.
So there's two more. Hopefully we have time for that. One, could you go back and maybe cover what might actually happen this year, which would be people entered an in-person race and now they want to switch in bulk from in-person because it couldn't happen to a virtual 5K as an example. So you had a whole bunch of people signed up for in-person and now they want to switch to a virtual 5K. So would you run through that scenario real quick?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. I personally think the easiest, if your in-person race completely went belly up and you had to convert to virtual and you launched as a hybrid race like we've recommended, so you have a in-person 5K and you have a virtual 5K, you can bulk transfer everybody into the virtual 5K if you wanted to, or you can just go back into the race wizard, set that in-person race, flip it over to virtual, and then configure those virtual result settings to just be an alternate result set and feed into, you know, the single leaderboard there. To me, I think that's easier to do that way than bulk transfers, because it just maintains the integrity of the original registration ID, and you don't have to like chase down that they transferred and then find the original one to refund in the future. To me, that's the easiest thing. Our virtual features are very easy to combine leaderboards. So even if you have like a marketing style registration where you have like, hey, here's a VIP registration, here's the basic registration, you can consolidate result sets so everybody feeds into the same leaderboard. And so you may need to check with your timer on how to do that, depending on if you're offering Race Joy. But I think it's just easier to just go into the Race Wizard and convert to virtual as opposed to doing the bulk event transfer. But that is an option that you can do. What do you think, Natalie?
Yeah, that's exactly what I recommend. I only think bulk transfers are necessary from a situation like a 5K to a virtual 5K if you have a hybrid event. If the in real life 5K is totally canceled and you need to switch it to virtual, don't transfer any of the registration IDs, just change the event settings and make that existing event virtual.
So the other one that came up, and I know you covered it a little bit, was based on the deferral credits. Willie asked, I'm interested in learning how the participants use a credit from one race for a totally different race on our calendar. So, you know, maybe cover that one more time real quick, because that did have a couple questions on that.
Yeah,
can they limit it, for instance, to which race? And is it any race under a partner account, or is it any race that they're a race director for? Can you cover some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you will need to be a full race director access to allow people to transfer into different races. So by default, when you're setting this up, it's going to automatically select the race that you're setting these features up in. And when you think about this, we have a race ID field that we renew each year. So you have the same URL, the same information. So you're just allowing them to take action in the future, where when you renew, that race ID stays the same. And so when registration's open, they can claim that deferral. Just with any other race that you want to allow, you're setting that specific credit amount here that I deferred from race A, and I'm going to set $25 of credit. Therefore, when I claim that deferral back into the same race, or I transfer to race B or C, I have $25 of credit to use. Or if you're doing those features with the add-ons and things like that, you can give them that add-on credit. Now, again, different races probably have different add-ons or different merchandise. So that's where you can kind of customize the settings, but we do have the ability, if you have multiple races, to allow them to transfer to a later race, have that through that deferral option. So yeah, that's a great question. But one of the other kind of other sides of that coin is you don't need to create a separate race for 2021 or 2022 to allow people to defer, because they only need to take that action when the race is ready for registration. So you just maintain the year-over-year renew. So after the race is over and you're ready to go, and then we have a deferral report that you can reach out to people that didn't claim it and say, hey, registration's open for 2021. You should have a deferral credit that you can transfer. Go into your profile under the defer tab and claim it. So
I don't have too many more questions from the audience. You guys crushed it.
great. Yeah, there's a lot of advanced stuff, and each race is unique. So it is definitely tough to kind of globally come up with some settings. But we really feel like this defer via race transfer gives that large umbrella for every race to potentially use one of those 3 types of credit transfers. And then with the new flexibility of that loyalty list with the reserved entries, and then coming up soon is the voucher system that's already on the test server. That'll probably be out in a week or 2 tops. That will be a really cool thing to use for getting people in and having those credits stay forward. Because once you transfer into a race, that credit is wiped out. And so it doesn't allow you to kind of transfer that credit in the future once you've already claimed that registration. And so potentially the vouchers can be a good tool to use in the future. And so stay tuned to our blog when that feature comes out. And we'll probably have a little session on that as well.
Yes.
Have a feeling that'll be a good one for us. That a lot of people will be very interested in watching that webinar when we have it.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that, as Matt said.
Cool. Well, we'll hang out for another 3 or 4 minutes in case someone else has a question. The last session of this entire symposium is going to be just a town hall with Bob. It's back on one of the GoToWebinar links, and that is really just an opportunity for people to ask questions that weren't answered by sessions here, or they're just generally curious about. That's going to start at 4:30, and I hope we'll see you there.
Thanks, Natalie.
Bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Thanks, Johanna.
Thank you, guys.
I'm going to keep on pushing that loyalty list stuff. I love it.
It's fun.
It solves a lot of problems for people that they may not see initially. So like Matt had a question that came up during this that was like, how do I block reserved entries from being used? Well, you can now apply a loyalty list that has no one in it. So now all of a sudden that multi-use basically closes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage our platform that this just enables even more.
I think one of my favorite use cases for it is, like I have a race that uploaded 5,000 single-use reserved entries and had the cutoff date of January 31st, and now they need to extend it.
Yeah.
And you can't extend single-use entries. So if that had been set up as a multi-use reserved entry that had a loyalty list, it would be
Huge.
5 clicks to extend the cutoff date for those people.
Yep. So there's a lot of those little things that get solved. And another great way to use this, it's not just about getting people in that are from 2020. You can use this for sponsors or corporations that give you a employee list. So now all of a sudden you apply a loyalty list that is, these employees are going to pay this amount. So you don't want to use a corporate team engine. You can use this instead, which would be like, hey, this is a reserved entry at a certain price for this one company, and here's all their employees. And now only those employees can use that. That's another example, but you can unravel tons of ways to use this. Well,
All right. I think we can call that all questions then. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.